Okay, I think we're ready to roll here. Welcome, everybody. This is the fourth installment of the GRAR 3-on-3 at 3 p.m. And I'm just so happy to be here. And I want to thank the Education Committee for allowing me to moderate today's event. And our topic today is smart financial planning for your real estate business. My name is Jessica Tucker. I am one of your fellow Realtor associates here. I'm also the operating partner at Keller Williams Grand Rapids. And I welcome you all to please, tag your friends on this. And also, events like this are always better when there's collaboration and questions. So please, no silly questions. Put your question in the chat, and I'll be checking those as well. But today we're going to talk a little bit about financial planning for your business. We're going to talk about tax strategies. We're going to talk about budgeting. In my experience selling real estate, I have found that many of us, because we're running so hard and so fast in our business, working in the business at such a high level, servicing our clients, that often the most important thing here goes by the wayside, and that's running a very profitable business, and also having a game plan for our personal wealth, and setting things up properly. It's really easy to lose sight of that. I know so many agents, really super successful agents, who are kind of gauging their financial success by, well, there's money in my checking account. Am I doing okay? I can pay my bills and I've got extra. And we want to take that up a level and really talk about some really practical strategies on what we can implement to improve all of those things, and leave here with a game plan today. So we've got this fantastic panel over here to my left, and I'm going to allow each of you guys to just introduce yourself and just give us a brief little tidbit as to why you are here today sharing with us.
Okay. My name's Jake Heglund. I am the broker owner of JH Realty. I've been in the business approximately, we were just talking about it before on air. I got my license when I was 18, and I'm 40 now, so 22 years I've been in the business. A funny story, we're talking about when we had this is why this event is cool, because when I first got into the business 20 some years ago, there were two young professionals, and the whole GRAR is myself and Walter Perschbacher, so I got to say I was the young professional of the year. I beat out Walter one year, and then I think we just switched the next year. So happy to be here. I enjoy the financial aspect of the business, and happy to be with some smart people. And see you. We've done a lot of deals together, and never actually got to see each other face to face, so it's nice to see you.
Very cool. Well, I am Tanya Powell-May. I am also an associate broker, but at the Keller Williams North office. I lead a team called the Legacy Homes GR team, a group of amazing agents. There are 7 total. I have been a CPA for over 30 years. I'm not going to say exactly how many, because that would date me. I'm not going to tell you my age. But over 30 years, I've been a CPA, and I got my real estate license back in the late 90s, and did it part-time with my sister, Jessie, until we both got married and had kids, and then stopped doing it part-time. I got back into the business full-time in 2015 as an independent agent, and have grown my team since then. So I am involved in the education task force here at GRAR, and appreciate the opportunity to be a part of this discussion.
And aren't you, in your previous life, before getting in real estate, you were a full-time CPA, yes?
Oh, for 30 plus years.
Did you say that and I missed it?
Yes.
Thanks.
That's okay.
See, I wasn't listening. I just wanted to make sure.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I worked mostly in corporate. So I worked for Herman Miller. I was the CFO at Network 180, a lot of corporate type roles. But jumped back into real estate in 2015, and it's been fabulous. So I'd love to share in this format.
Awesome. Do you do your own taxes?
Yes, I do. I have a master's degree in taxation. I had to go back and get that.
Thank you. Perfect. Yeah. Okay.
I'm Ron Lemmon. I'm the co-owner of Patriot Realty. I'm the broker, designated broker, and I own it with my wife, Janine. Some of you may have done business with her, of course. I spent the first 20 years of my career in the investment business as an investment advisor in securities business. The next part of my life was 15 years as a full-time professor at Elma College teaching corporate finance, investments, and global strategy. And then at the same time, got my broker's license back in the late 1980s. I was doing real estate syndications, selling limited partnerships and packaging up apartment complexes around the area and buying them and selling them. And that's how I kind of migrated more to real estate out of the investment business. But a lot of my background, and I went back and actually got my master's degree in finance in order to be able to qualify to become a professor at my college. So,
Wow, good for you. Well, now I don't feel like I have anything to add to that. Well, I am the operating partner at Keller Williams, and I've been selling real estate for, oh gosh, 12 years now. But I do have a handful of businesses, all in the real estate space. And one thing that I'm super passionate about is passive income and building profitable businesses. So although I don't have that type of experience or education, I do have a passion for it. So I love this topic. And I love this industry. I think our role as a realtor is so darn important. And we're working with individuals on, for most, their largest asset, you know? And so I think we work really hard to put them first, and yet we aren't necessarily taking our advice. We would always advise somebody to use a realtor, a professional, to help them with such a big purchase or sale. And yet I think a lot of us get so caught up in our business that we lose sight of managing our money well and taking care of our businesses. So let's jump in and let's share some strategies around that so our audience can have some takeaways. And please chime in with questions, you guys. We want to hear from you out in the audience in the virtual world. So first question I have, and I'll start, why don't we start down with you again, if that's cool. Okay. So tell me, what are some of the best financial practices for setting up your business? Or if you even want to just share one, maybe we'll share one, we'll go on down, and if we want to stay on this topic for a minute, we'll come back to you.
It's as simple as you've heard it a lot. I always operate off a budget. And from the first day I started my business, I would kind of write down my pendings, my expenses, do my net, see how much I have left for taxes. And it's kind of neat because I have this file in my file cabinet called expense sheets, and I literally have my budget going back 19 years every single month. And I kind of like to look at that once or twice a year and kind of see how you progress. It's kind of fun to go back to like year one and to see what expenses I was worried about. But it's really as simple as, in order to take care of your clients, I think being, financially healthy makes it a lot easier, but it's probably one of the hardest things to do when you're in the middle of doing your day-to-day stuff. So it's as simple as a budget. If I could say one thing that I started off with, it's just every month I do a budget. Never miss it. It's the most important thing I do at the start of each month for my business.
Great. Love that. I would say my best practice, because I'm an accountant, for me, it's having my information and using QuickBooks or using some kind of program that you can track on a monthly basis. Also, I relied a lot on the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book to really guide me as to how to do the business. There's a great chart of accounts in the back of the book, so that helped me to determine how to set things up. And that was really important. So every month I'm looking at my financial picture and paying attention to the return on the investment that I'm getting, the profit that I'm making on a monthly basis. So for me, the best practice is, one, learn QuickBooks or hire someone to help you to set that up. And then also make sure that you're paying attention to it on a monthly basis. And some people weekly even, but at least on a monthly basis.
Yeah, and I think my comment would kind of mirror both these, but I would focus on two things. Don't be afraid to hire an advisor in every part of your business. You don't know everything. I don't know everything. We don't know everything. If you're going to make an investment, get an investment advisor. If you're going to do your taxes, you're making a big mistake. Hire a CPA to do your taxes and get advice on your business and your personal returns. I see a lot of agents out there who are afraid to spend the money to do that because, I've got to spend it on advertising for this listing. You just made a huge mistake. They're the people that can help you make more money. And the other thing is, focusing on a budget is great, but you're better off focusing on cash flow. What is my cash flow going to be this week, this month? Because if you don't have cash flow, you don't have a business. So focus on cash flow. When is it coming in? And you can put your budget together, you can do everything else, but if you don't have a cash flow budget, you'll be out of business.
Now, do you guys all use QuickBooks? Just out of curiosity.
Yes, absolutely. Best thing, best product in the world. I have many of my agents that I've set up to use QuickBooks on their own. Many of them don't use it because it takes time. Well, that's a mistake, but you can't force people to do something.
I like to say, like, if you're not running your real estate your real estate practice like a business,
Right.
all you are is just working.
You've got a job.
You just have a job.
Right.
So you to build it like a business, and you don't see any successful business out there that doesn't keep their accounting. It's the same with an agent. If you really want to be successful, keep your accounting, do QuickBooks, things like that. I was telling Tanya before, for 12 years I did my own books, and I had a couple kids, and, oh, thank you. And I found myself being tied down to, I'd have a free day, didn't have a lot of showings. I'd be tied down, I have to get in and pay everybody and go. I hired a bookkeeper, and for the amount that I'm spending on a bookkeeper, it's
Yep.
my single best personal investment this year is that. And it's not that expensive, and it's worth its weight in gold, and you can focus on your clients and watch your money without having to be tied down to it every day.
That's great advice. I would add one more thing that we really haven't discussed, and I see a lot of agents do this starting out. They don't separate their personal expenses from their business expenses. You should set up a separate business account for your business activities and then use your personal for your personal. I see a lot of commingling going on, and for a tax professional like myself, it's a nightmare. So if you want to stay in good relationship with your accountant, separate your business from your personal.
And also, how do you really know if you're making money
Yeah.
or if you're cash flowing out your business if you commingle things? It shouldn't be together. Your business should be separate, totally separate. Checking accounts, bank accounts, everything.
And for an agent that doesn't think QuickBooks is worth it, at the end of the year when it's tax time and you just hit a button to print out your P&L, instead of the weeks I would spend before tax season organizing my receipts and tallying them up, I mean, the time that you're going to spend throughout the year to do your QuickBooks, just to have your taxes done properly, is worth its weight in gold, let alone even tracking your business.
And it's not that expensive for an individual user copy.
Yeah.
I think it's 20 or 30 bucks a month for the basic level of QuickBooks.
For the online system, and
Yes.
you can do it anywhere. You can do it on your phone. It just doesn't make sense not to do it.
Yeah, I use the online system. It's been real helpful. If I'm at home or my office, I can pull it up, do what I need to do wherever I'm at.
So I have to add one more thing. So because we experienced COVID over the last year, I saw so many, not just realtors, but other business owners who didn't have that in order, their financials in order. So when it came time to applying for the PPP loans or the EIDL loans or, all of that, they weren't prepared. So it's like doing that basic thing helps you to just be prepared for whatever. And this past year, I saw a lot of people who couldn't take advantage of the grants that were available because their records weren't in order. So I would just encourage that.
Leaving a lot of money on the table. I just applied for my first commercial loan, and one of my businesses, my passive income, my investment portfolio, I had a system, but it was haphazard. A lot of Excel spreadsheets. We all work on those, I think. But that was a hindrance. So I got turned down 3 different times on the commercial side because my affairs weren't in order with that one respective business. So I just did a QuickBooks online, didn't hire anybody, just did it myself. It's really pretty easy. So that's a great point. So you mentioned budget, you guys, and I personally review my P&L for every single business as well as my budget monthly. I want to have an intimate relationship with my money. I focus on it, and by focusing on it, I see that it grows faster. So I just get in that habit. But good for you. The fact that you've been doing a budget for 22 years you're the anomaly. So for the agents out there who are like, okay, cool, where do I start? how do you just start with a budget? Like, let's assume you haven't like tracked anything and you don't know what you're spending because you don't even, your business and your personal account is one. I mean, do you have any practical advice as to just how do I start with a budget?
It's going to be the hardest just to start, but once you start, it'll get easier every month. What I like to do, and this takes a little while, but the budget I'm living on this month are for things that I closed 2 months ago. So I tried to build it up so that I'm living on pendings that literally closed in like June. And I try to stay 2 or 3 months so I know what I've already is in my budget for this month because I'm living off my June pendings or closed. And then that's where I would start. So if you could, try to get a month ahead. That's where I started. I got a month ahead. Honestly, it took me 4 to 5 years to truly get a month ahead on my budget. And then once I got a month ahead, it's much easier to do your budget because you're not worried about what's closing today. And then I think that will also help you serve your customers better, your clients, because you're not worried about what's going to close today. You're going to do what's right for that client. And I'm using what I did. So I would start next month with the stuff that you did last month, stuff that's already closed, and then work forward off that.
So my suggestion, that's great advice. My suggestion, like right now we're in August, we've got 7 months of history, like for this year. So going back, looking at your bank statements, what you've spent typically each month and what your income looked like for the year, right? So at least coming up with I usually start with an annual budget based on what kind of GCI I expect to make, and then build the budget from there. And the MREA shows different percentages for each type of expense that is recommended. You can do whatever works for your particular business, but there are some guidelines. What you can do right now to set up a budget is just go back. You can go back and look at 3 months. 6 months would give you a bit better picture of what you're spending, what your income look like, and to project, what kind of budget you should be building. MREA shows anywhere from 30.
MREA, just for the
Yeah.
non-KW agent, that's
Yeah.
Millionaire Real Estate Agent. That's the book Gary Keller wrote, and there's
Yeah.
a model in there for the budget model.
Yeah. So
GCI.
GCI is
commission
gross
income.
commission income. Thank you. I'm sorry. So having that perspective in terms of what that needs to look like helps me to make sure that I'm putting the money into my business operating account that I have estimated that I will need based on my budget. That really helps you to play red light, green light with your money if you're not seeing that the money that you think you'll need is there, right? You've overspent or something like that. So that's what I would suggest. Going back, just looking at the last 3 to 6 months, figuring out what you spend typically each month and set up a budget. And usually whatever that 1/12 amount is, that's what goes into my business account to cover my expenses.
Mm-hmm.
And then let me talk to all those people who aren't accountants.
Yeah.
Basically, what she just said was find an accountant that you can work with who can teach you how to do it if you don't know how to do it. If it costs you $500 to go find out how to do it that way. But quite frankly, I understand that most people are not accounting numbers type people. Even though you're in the real estate business, I can tell you of my agents, probably 1 or 2 have the capability of doing anything on the accounting sector. And they're not bright, they are, but not in finance or numbers. So find somebody to help you. Is it a mentor? Which is great. Find somebody that you know does budgeting, sit down with them for an hour or 2. It's much simpler than trying. One of the questions we had, what's the best book that you could recommend? I don't recommend you read a book because I can give you 100 different opinions on the same topic depending on the author. Here's what you do. Take yourself, spend $500, get off your butt, and go to somebody to advise you how to do it. And then you will learn it. It'll be there forever. Otherwise, you're going to read a book and not know what to do.
So do you guys have any best practices around reserves? Because if I'm thinking about some of the folks in our audience right now, okay, setting a budget, that's fine. But I know when I made my first hire, I was scared to death that I have somebody on fixed expense now. I'm somebody's livelihood. And so I just knew that if I had 3 months of that salary in my savings account, that I should be able to get an ROI in those 3 months. I'm curious if you guys have any best practices around just savings, because I feel like if you have savings or reserves and what a good amount is, then you have more confidence building that budget and, running it more like a business than just, a
Yeah.
practitioner.
When I first started my brokerage, it was the recession, and it was just really tight. There weren't a ton of sales. There wasn't a lot of low-hanging fruit like there is right now. And I still remember the first month after I started it, I got all set up and I was running everything, and then I had to borrow $7,000 from like my wife and I's savings account back then. Scarred me. I was just like, I never want to do that. It scares me. I don't want to live that way. So what I did was I would take half of our profits and I'd bring it back into like our family's income, and I kept half of our profits and I left it in the business. And as I accumulated that, I would do safe investments with it. I mean, tax-free municipal bonds, things that are real easy to get out, relatively liquid, but still earning a little bit. I personally take half of everything that the company makes to our family. The other half of the net stays in the business. And that's what I did. But again, maybe that's a little overkill. It's just from when I started, I was never going to do that again. And that's kind of where I've stuck.
So did you learn to live on half of your income?
Yeah. Yep. And, to be honest, it was my wife had a job at the time too. So I feel for some others when I look, it could be harder than I had. I'm not saying that. And so that helped a little bit, but it's still, I didn't like having to take our family's money to run my business. But I'm still glad I did that risk and took that risk. It's the best risk I ever took, but I still try to live off half of everything and the rest stays in my business.
And if you think about it, how most agents look at it is, here's a commission check for $5,000, I can spend this. That's my income. That is not your income. I always tell agents, set an amount that you want to make each month. That's $2,000, $2,500, $3,000. That's all you get. Because you get a $10,000 commission, doesn't mean you take it. You leave it in the business. Make sure you always have at least 6 to 9 months worth of cash in the business, much like what you've done, Jake. And that's what we do in our business. We don't take all the money that the business makes or the commissions that Janine and I generate. We just don't. We leave it in the business. We have a certain amount at the end of each month that the cash balance has got to be this, and we don't pay ourselves. And guess what? We never have a problem. So, and it's easy to start. Get your first commission, $5,000, put it into your corporate bank account or company bank account that you have for yourself, and then pay yourself $2,000. That's it. You don't get any more. So that's part of the budgeting process. It's not just the expenses, it's how much you pay yourself. When you get comfortable enough, then you can start making other investments like Jake said. But again, I'm going to tell you, get an advisor, because on investments, it's the same thing.
I want to reiterate what you just said. That's a part of the budget piece is what is it? And you said it too, Tanya. What is my cost of living? What is it? $4,000 a month? Is it $10,000 a month? Sit down with your family, know what it costs you to maintain your lifestyle.
Right.
Now I've got a business account and I have a personal account. When a commission check comes in, I'm taking a portion of what I need for my family to live, and I'm bringing it over there. And then my business account is my operating account. Now I can back into a budget. Well, what do I actually have to work with here? Oh, I got an extra $800. Cool. Maybe I will do a little bit of, internet lead generation or whatever it might be. But that's really smart. And I heard you say 6 to 9 months. I'm a little more of a risk taker. Personally, I have 3 to 6 months of reserves for each of my respective businesses as well as my personal. So if it costs me $15,000 to live, I have $45,000 personally on my personal savings. That's just my number, but I feel very comfortable with that number. So I would say a minimum should be 3 months for personal and business. So if you're in a debt position right now where you don't have any savings, I would advise you to, get to at least that 3-month mark. Does anybody else feel differently about that?
I totally agree. Like 6 months is the recommendation. Like that's the best practice. The gold standard, at least 6 months. But if you have to get yourself to 3 months, I feel do that. So this discussion is great. I think the biggest challenge for a lot of realtors is they don't factor in what they need to pay their taxes, right? So they get themselves in a really difficult position because they haven't set aside money for taxes. So each commission check that you get, I tell people, put 25% away for taxes.
Yeah.
Like,
At least.
at
least.
and then you don't have a big bill at the end. You have the money to pay your taxes, and if you have some left over, good, that's your money to play with.
You
But-
know how many realtors at the end of the year don't realize they have to pay their own self-employment expense,
Yeah.
which is 15.6%?
I did.
They don't know
I
it.
didn't.
You know,
Yeah.
and the whole thing is,
First year.
and then they say, I mean, I have to pay that plus income tax? Yeah, that's because you're an independent contractor, you're an independent business person. So their taxes right off the bat are 50%.
Yeah.
You know, with city, state, all this other stuff, and it's, so you got a $5,000 commission, you got to take 2,500 out first thing to say for taxes.
Yeah.
That'll make you safe when you get your tax bill. Now you've got 2,500 left. How much are you going to live off of? And how much are you going to leave in the business? Those are the kind of decisions that you really have to focus on.
Yeah.
Because that's going to make you become successful in this business.
And I have a separate tax savings account.
Yep.
Just it's like for me, my brain works like I need like buckets. So I set up a separate tax savings account, and on each budget, I have how much is going to go to there, and I put it there. And at the end of the year, it's there. And when I do my estimates, if there's money left over, I just keep it in there, and I don't touch it.
Yeah, my approach is a little different. I go to my CPA 3 times a year, and I make sure I pay everything in the year it's due. I don't want to have a bill in April. It really irritates me. You know, I can't deal with it. So I went in May, I threw in a bunch more money. I'm going to go September 1st. I'll throw in a bunch more money. I'll go November 15th. And he keeps giving me different numbers based on how my business is doing. And when I come to 12/31, I don't want to owe one more penny. I want something I can apply to the next year. Again, that's part of your planning process.
So if you're just getting started in this business, let's say you were on a salary before and you made this leap into becoming a realtor, I would really urge you to set up the business account and the personal account, and then you're going to have some savings accounts, at least one savings account. So your commission check comes in, and you're going to immediately transfer probably a minimum of 20% for taxes, 20 to 37%. I mean, so that's immediately going in there, and then you're immediately paying yourself as well. So what's that dollar amount that I need to live on? Or to start, it might just be a portion. It's really conservative. I mean, the fact that you were living on 50%, good for you. We can all work up to that point. And then you've got your operating account from there. Like, that's kind of what's left over to run your business, right? So that's a good practical way just to get started and not be in a hole. And that's kind of leads to this next question is there an experience that you guys had that you wish you'd handled differently? That was mine. Starting off, I didn't know I needed to pay taxes on that. So I had to refinance my car back in 2009 because, I had a tax obligation because I made money my first year in the business. And I'm like, well, this stinks. And much like you, ever since then, I've oversaved into that savings account. And then I either leave it in there or I'm using that to buy a house and create some passive income for myself and let it grow. So can you share an experience that you'd like others to know that you don't want them to repeat? Anything you can think of?
Ron reminded me my first few years I wouldn't meet with my CPA until the end of the year. And then he would say, well, you made more money this year. I'm like, well, I didn't really feel like it.
I don't have more money.
So you owe taxes. And so I made it where I meet with him at least quarterly. So I can at least, if I know I'm a little behind on my tax obligations, I can put it into my budget, and I don't wait till the end of the year to get the bad news. I'd kind of like it like the bad news in real time,
Yeah.
so I can fix
Yep.
it before it's over.
Makes you feel a whole heck of a lot better.
Yeah, it does.
That it's
Yep.
there.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, that's great advice. Meeting with your tax person on a mortgage. This was the easiest thing for me because I had so many things that I did wrong, even as an accountant. So let me tell you. The first thing that I have like 6 things, so I'm not going to tell y'all 6.
Oh,
but
that's awesome. Do it.
I didn't consistently lead generate every day, so my finances were a roller coaster. When you're used to getting a salary and a paycheck every 2 weeks, this business is not that. So you need to prepare for those roller coasters. If you're not lead generating every day, get ready for the roller coaster, because you've got to be leading with revenue and building your sales funnel, right? So that was my one. The second thing is that I didn't start an LLC right away. Right now I'm organized as a S Corp, a LLC, and my tax liability dropped significantly when I did that. So I'm embarrassed to say I didn't do that right away, and I'm an accountant. So at some point, you need to look into that, right? When you feel like your business is growing, because you will have tax savings on that. Another one I wanted to share is not making the estimated tax payment on time. Then you have penalties. I did that. I know better. And I still did it, right? I know better, and I still did it. And then the other thing you talked a little bit about is leverage. When I got back into the business in 2015, I was independent agent. And then the next year, all these people came to me and said, I want to join your team. I didn't have a team, but I, of course, said yes. Didn't know what the heck I was doing. I hired 5 buyer's agents and did not have an administrative assistant. So guess who became the administrative assistant?
Yeah.
Me. That was a total waste of my potential to be doing those types of duties for my team. So I have 2 admin right now to support my team, but I'm not doing it. So
Because you're the rainmaker and you need to be lead generating to generate the
Right.
revenue. And
right. My time is worth more
Yeah.
if I'm doing the things that I should be doing: lead generating, following up, practicing my scripts, negotiating contracts, going on appointments, those things. If I'm focused on those things, I don't have time for the other stuff.
Great.
It's not a good use of your time
Yeah.
to be writing
And
checks.
we all, yeah, exactly. We all learn from our mistakes. So if you're watching this and like, well, they do this, they do that. I mean, that's from like touching a hot coal. I mean, that's how you learned. Like when I had to borrow money from my family when I first started my business, that was something that helped you get better. So if you're sitting here and watching this today, like, I don't even know where to start. I mean, we all started somewhere, and you kind of learn from your mistakes. And you never will get better unless you learn from them, just like that. Those are great mistakes that you share.
They're real, unfortunately.
Yeah, good.
Ron,
Good.
share with us a tax strategy, if you would, that you've implemented to build wealth and pay less to the IRS.
I like paying money to the IRS.
Well, yes.
Julie knows that.
Why?
I should ask her about that. Here's the problem. If you start making all your decisions because of tax policy, you're in trouble. And it doesn't matter. You can go back to the 1960s when the top tax rate was 50%, plus state, plus federal. And all investors were doing is buying limited partnerships that gave them 100% write-off on book publishing. I mean, you can't control tax policy. All you can control is yourself. So focus on saving and investing. Don't focus on taxes. If you make a lot of money, folks, you're going to have to pay taxes. You can buy all the real estate you want, but with the amount of write-offs that you get now on real estate, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense as a tax shelter. I mean, maybe you can get some passive income from it. But honestly, if you really spend time looking at investing your money and doing it the right way, save, cut your stupid expenses, and quite frankly, make good investments. You realize $1 a day invested at 10% for 40 years, you're going to have over 100,000. $5 a day, 800,000. Why aren't we doing that? Because we don't think about it. We're so short-term focused. So what I've done wrong in my life is I've tried to do that saving, but I've always at some point needed to pull money out from my business or college education, whatever it was. And I go back over that now and wish I'd never done that, because I have enough money, but I'd like a lot more. And doesn't everybody want more money? I think that's the idea. But you see what I mean? My mistake is not listening to the things that people told me as I was growing up. My grandfather was the best one. Time value of money. Invest $1, you're going to have $100,000 sometime. But if you spend $1, you don't have $100,000. No, that's it. It's that simple.
Yeah.
I didn't listen.
Yeah, speaking of time value of money, something fun to do. There's an app on your smartphone. It's just the TVM. It's time value of money. And if you want to play with that, literally you can put whatever you think you're going to save, and at whatever interest rate you're going to get in the number of periods or years you're going to save it, hit enter, and it'll amaze you. And if that doesn't get you saving, then you just don't want to save.
I have this very irritating thing I do to my wife, because every time she wants to buy something, I have a value calculator, and I'll say, well, that couch is $3,000. And I said, no, it's not. It's $363,000 35 years from now.
See? Oh,
Yeah.
And I do it every time,
Mm-hmm.
but she still buys it.
there you go. I was going to say, she's still probably
I think
buying.
you're teacher wife in one real quick second.
Well, I encourage people to save. I believe in that reserve. And with the realtors, for me, it was, you don't have to save $1,000 a month or whatever. It's little by little, and it's something from every time you get paid. That's what worked. And I had a grandfather who had a grade school education, worked at GM. He passed away like 3-4 years ago now. And when he died, my grandmother was set for life. And it's not because he was making over $100,000 a year, right? With not even a high school education.
Yep.
She had over $1 million that she didn't have to worry.
Sounds like my grandfather.
Yeah.
He was a saver.
He lived through he was
a
a saver.
Mm-hmm.
He lived through the Depression, but it's about saving little by little, consistently, is what makes the difference.
Yep.
Yes.
So.
You have anything to share? Any tax strategies that you've employed to?
I mean, I don't keep up on a lot of the tax laws and stuff because there's just so much to do. So I go back to, I meet with my CPA quarterly, and he helps me with that. For instance, I met with him a few months ago. He's like, well, it'd be a good time to buy a new car because we can depreciate this or do that, and this is where your other vehicles are. And so when I'm meeting with him quarterly, I'm doing things that I wouldn't do if I didn't meet with him. So I don't study the tax laws or know this or know that. I just rely on a good CPA that I stay in touch with. And I usually don't buy anything major without asking him. And I say, this is what LLC I'm going to put it in, and he'll give me advice on how to do things that way.
This is how good tax strategy works. My CPA did that 2 years ago, told me to buy a car. So I bought a $70,000 car. $70,000 car, and I wrote the whole thing off. There was no limit. It was during that changes in tax codes, etc. And I'll clean it up, Julie, don't worry. I got the evil eye going here. So anyway, I did it, wrote it all off, saved a lot of tax dollars. Guess what? I sold it earlier this year. I met with my accountant in May, and he says, you're going to pay it all back. And what? And I knew it. The minute he said it, I said, oh, I made a mistake. So I sold it for $50,000. Now I've got to report the $50,000 of income. And he said, you know, you got to go out and buy a new car. I said, I'm not doing that again. Pay the tax. See, it all comes back. It's going to catch you one way or another. So I don't know what you can really do anymore.
Yeah. So I had, for this question, pay yourself a reasonable income. And this should at least cover your monthly living expenses so that you're paying taxes throughout the year. And also I said an S Corp. So once you get to that point, think about an S Corp. The benefit is that you divide your profits between your salary and dividends, and you avoid that self-employment tax on a part of it. So that's what's making the tax liability go down when you choose that.
That's definitely a strategy. And I don't know when the right time is. Someone told me years ago, when you're making $100,000, then do it. So I'm like, okay, that's when I became an S Corp. And my tax rate was significant. I think it was like $12,000. I didn't have to write a check to the IRS. So that made some sense to me. I think buying and holding real estate, there's a lot of tax advantages, guys. And this is the world we live in. And we're advising our clients on this. And I really, truly believe that we should all own an income producing piece of property. Doesn't mean we have to manage it, but there are tax advantages and the power of passive income, right? So you're saying save, save, save. Cool. Fantastic. Real estate is the best vehicle to generate passive income, and then we can compound interest, right? You alluded to that compound interest piece of it. Is like, what can we do with that? Even if it's $50 a month, right? The tax advantages, and then you can take that 50 and reinvest it or save it, and that compounds. So. And one strategy I just have to say, because I'm so jazzed about it, I just learned about it because I read this book recently on tax strategy and I liked it. But I have a 5 and an 8-year-old, almost a 9 and 6-year-old, and I just learned this strategy through this book of paying your kids.
Yeah.
You can pay your kids up to $12,000 per year, and you don't pay that federal income tax on that. So for me, I have 2 kids. I can write off $24,000 by paying my kids, and it's an absolute pleasure to have them in the office, by the way. They're actually doing meaningful work for me. And now I am, let's say our tax bracket is 30%. That's $7,200 that I'm not paying to the IRS, and that's college savings. So that's one thing that I'm actually just doing right now that I was super excited about, because I'm always trying to find ways to not write a check to the IRS. I want to keep that.
Talk to your tax advisor, please.
Yeah, I didn't do a disclaimer in the beginning that we are not CPA. Well, Tanya was.
I am, but I'm not your CPA.
Yeah. So, we're not experts. We're just sharing some of the things we do.
Right?
Yeah.
You said it. You said hire an advisor, hire a good CPA. Y'all have said it, so that's good. I'd love somebody to chime in here. What opportunities would you suggest for realtors to build wealth? Whoever wants to chime in there.
I will start that one.
Okay.
For me, I just went down the streams of income that I have as a realtor. My company offers profit share, so I have income from that. I also have title shares in a title company. I also love your idea of investing in real estate. And then agent to agent referrals. That's one that I think we miss out on a lot of. I've earned more on agent to agent referrals for agents outside of the area this year than I have ever. So I think that's something that we just need to establish more relationships with other agents in other areas to generate additional income.
Nice. I think the best way is, focus on your business and yourself, and it sounds corny, but taking care of your clients, and that'll help your business grow. And once you have your bucket's full of your business and you have other places, do what you like and know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good recommendation.
I had several rental properties, and I didn't like it as much. I still have a few, but not as much as I had, because I was always something wrong or doing this, and I like stocks personally. So I like to maybe do some more of that versus rental properties, but it's more like that's because I like to learn about it and I know it. Not that I don't know real estate, but I just invest in yourself and things that you know, and don't follow everybody else.
Right.
And then I try to diversify. I try not to put too much into one spot, and if I feel it's off kilter, I'll kind of look at it at the end of the year and say, well, maybe next year my goal is to this year invest in something different. And it's really my best 2 investments have been my business and investing in my wife's business.
Yeah.
And I think one thing about investing too is you've got to spend time on it. I don't care if it's real estate, investments, mutual funds, whatever it is. I don't care. You've got to spend time once a month and sit down for 2 hours. That's all. Just think 2 hours out of your entire life, because the only thing that's going to make you happy and successful is to not have somebody breathing down your neck and have no money in the bank. You have no control over your life. The only way to get absolute control over your life, it has financial well-being. That's the way the world works, unfortunately. So if you've got $100,000 in the bank, you'll quit your job and find another job. But if you don't have any money in the bank, you can't do it.
Yeah.
So my recommendation for people is you've got to learn what's best for you, like you were saying. But quite frankly, I think that from an investment standpoint, you need to spend 2 hours a month. That's all. Looking at your budget, looking at your cash flow, looking at what you did the past month, what you're going to do the next month, looking at your investments. Should I change them? Should I not change them? And then look at it. Well, I've got $10,000 in the bank. What should I invest it in? Get an advisor. Until you're capable of making those decisions, all you're going to do is make mistakes. And it doesn't cost that much. It will save you money.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Smart.
The best advice somebody gave me about investing is that, like, everybody was this big Bitcoin, and I had some. I invested $200. I'm like, if I lose it, I lose it. Let me just see what it does, right? But investing in things you don't really understand is not really a good idea. So just make sure you're putting your money in something that you understand.
Even in real estate,
Mhm.
because you know
Right.
how difficult rental properties can be.
Yeah.
You have a tenant move out after 3 months, or not move out, you got them in court for 6 months, and then they destroy the house, and you have the 5,000 to 10,000 reserves to fix it. And if not, it sits there. So what are you gonna do? Don't get into something you can't afford to get into, and that includes rental real estate. Great passive income, horrible when you have a bad tenant.
Yeah, it's just as
Yeah, we've
equally
seen-
important
I've
to
done
have
that.
reserves for each rental property. You should
Yes.
have 3 to 6 months reserves for
Yes,
each of those, and
you
then
should.
it's less painful when that happens because it's going to happen.
It's gonna happen.
The one thing that I would say around building wealth, and this is a little unconventional, is that for the last probably 10 years, I have taken 10% of my income every year. So that's been anywhere from $50,000 to $80,000. And I've invested in coaching and training and personal development. And when we invest in ourselves first, you end up having more success and generating more wealth for yourself. So I'm always going to write that check. And that's that forced discipline of 10% transfer, those buckets like you talked about.
Yeah.
It's a discipline every single month. Going back to the last question, we talked about an S corp, and this is a topic here that came up. What is required for an agent to set up an S corp? And then I think they're trying to understand whether if they're a broker versus a salesperson. Tanya, can you speak on that at all? Like what's required to set up the S corp?
Yeah, so there's just a couple of forms that need to be completed. So you complete your LLC forms with the state of Michigan. Those are on the michigan.gov website to create your LLC. And then on the IRS website is the 2553. It's been a while since I've done it. Form on the IRS website to establish yourself as an S corp. So those are the things that need to be done. You need a tax ID number. You get that from the IRS website. Again, hire a good attorney or a real CPA to help you through that process.
Yeah, don't go online to set up your own S corp, please.
Yeah.
You don't know how many mistakes you can make that cost you money in the long run because of that.
Yeah, and I had set my S corp up prior to getting my broker's license, and I remember that being an issue when Keller Williams was trying to pay me my commissions. They're saying, "Well, Jessica, you're saying you're an S corp, J Tucker Properties Inc., but really these commissions are to Jessica Tucker." So that's and it was fine. I don't think that's a long-term strategy, but that is what like prompted me to get my broker's. One of the reasons to get my associate broker's license is so there wasn't that. It was very clear that these commissions were being paid to my entity with my EIN number. It was cleaner. But for about 3 years, I was still an S corp. I was getting the tax advantages, and I wasn't. Hopefully that answers the question out in the audience. But I don't know.
Under the state law, you can't.
I might have done it wrong.
You have to be a broker or an associate broker in order to set up an S corp and get paid. Otherwise, it's got to be paid to the individual who's licensed.
So there you go.
So-
So the answer would then
Get your
be
broker
go get your
license,
broker
folks.
license, and then that's a great investment in yourself, right? That we just talked about that. So good. We've got a few more minutes left. Let me see. I want to ask you guys another question because you're so brilliant. Let's see here. We did talk about books or resources. No, I want to ask you this. I want to know what you guys are tracking. You alluded to it, Ron, but what should we be tracking in terms of like our financial wealth? What am I tracking? What am I doing?
You've got to know what the end result is. Okay, I'm 55. I want to have $1 million and I want to retire. How do you get there? You can't do it from start and say, you've got to do it at the end. This is what I want. Or this is how much income I want when I retire. Look up Social Security, it'd be $3,000 a month. I want $10,000 a month. I have to fill that gap at $7,000, either and mostly with passive income, which would be real estate or investments, mutual funds, whatever. That's what you've got to look at targeting. What's that net that you want to get to, and what deadline do you have? Is it 40 years, 50 years? It makes a big, big difference. And therefore, now you can back into that and say, this is how much I have to save each month, and this is how much I have to make on it as a return. So where's the best investment vehicles? An 8% return, you're not going to be in real estate. Does anybody know what the average return on real estate has been over the last 20 years?
20?
Since 1999, 83%. You know how much the stock market? 268%. So what did you want to be in? Real estate? Absolutely not. Real estate only became good, really, above 2% return since the bad recession we had. Now it's a great investment, but that over the long term, real estate has never been a good investment. So that's saying it. not a good thing, but also I think people have trouble identifying what an asset is. You know what an asset is? It generates income. Does your personal home, is that an asset?
No.
Absolutely not. It is not an asset. So why is somebody buying a home? Because it's a lifestyle issue, not for an investment. So just kind of make the point here. You're better off being in a conservative bond stock portfolio that'll generate 5 or 6% because that's 2.5 to 3 times what the average real estate has been over the last 80 years.
The
So,
only caveat to that would, if the real estate is generating passive income,
if you can get it to generate passive income. But
that's
passive
key.
income has a definition. No time.
right. Flipping real estate is now, that's a job.
That's a job. And also owning rental property can be a real horrible job.
Right.
So you've got to kind of balance it. But look, start at the end. This is what I want. This is how long I'm going to give it. This is what I have to do each year. This is how much I have to invest. And at this rate, and you'd be surprised. You can map it all out. And then every month, take a look at it, as you said you were doing, and change it, as Jake said. It's a great way to do it. Start at the end. Don't start.
Well, how much do I want to, when I'm retired, how much do I want to live on? See
Right.
the end from the beginning and then talk to an advisor to help strategize
Get that.
what's the
And
amount I
also
need to
remember, 10,000 a day, it's going to need 35,000 a month, in that period of time.
save. Tanya,
So-
what are you tracking?
Net worth is something that I pay attention to. What is my net worth? What am I worth? And then to Ron's point, I listened to a podcast this past year that kind of, I have a 5-year plan, right? And I thought I needed $1 million to retire. I don't need $1 million, I need 2.
Yeah.
Because of how much I'm going to need per month, right? So I listened to a podcast called Win, Make, Give, WINMAKE, Give, GIVE. It's Ben Kenny does that podcast. But he has a wealth series that is phenomenal. It doesn't take a lot of time, but it just walks you through the budgeting, different things that we've talked about, retirement. I spent 2 hours and figured that out. I'm like, okay, that makes me want to do some things differently, right? So I know what I'm working towards, to your point.
Yep.
So track your net worth. What are you worth? And you want to see that number increasing, right, over time, and then make sure that you have the resources that you'll need when you want to retire.
Yeah, fill that gap. I'm talking about this is what I want it to be, and this is what I have for salary. So if it's 2 to 10, how am I going to fill that $8,000 gap? Can it be passive income? And it's got to be passive income, right? Or are you going to get a second job?
Right.
So
No,
how are you going to fill it? How are you get? Yeah, we don't need it.
not an option.
But see what I mean? That tells you what you're going to be doing. That's your roadmap. It's not complicated. It's just you got to sit down and think about it. 2 hours a month, and you'll make millions because of it. Or
And write it
something
down.
like that.
Yeah.
Write it down.
Write it down every
I
month.
keep a live Excel spreadsheet
Yep.
with all my accounts, and I even go as far as I have each year, each month, I put what I saved that month, and then I compare it to the year before. And so like some years where I'm like, wow, I sold a lot of real estate, but why didn't I save as much? And I can figure, well, I was investing in here and doing this, and so I'm okay with that. So, but without writing all this down and having a nice like live Excel spreadsheet where you're tracking everything, and then you can sit and see your whole worth, where you're at, what accounts are for. I have all my accounts listed in a little sub next to them.
Yep.
It tells them what they're for. So like if I died tomorrow, anybody could take that sheet and know exactly what my money's for, where's this account, what's this account named, who's the investment advisor on it, all that type of stuff. And that's really helped me grow because I'm not afraid to do more things because it's not hard to track.
Quicken does that also.
Does it?
I use
Yeah.
Quicken, which
Yeah.
automatically has like a 15-year look back. I can look back over 15 years to see how I'm doing in my saving.
Yeah.
And that's only like $150.
Yeah.
And that tracks all your investments. You can automatically download all your quotes, valuations, and it gives you
real-time net worth.
real-time network.
Yeah.
That's good.
And it's great.
Yeah.
That's a great share. And for me, I'm much like you. I like the net worth because
Yes.
you've got, I'm looking at my cash flow. What are my businesses valued at? What's my retirement in financial instruments? And then my passive income. So for me, it's all encompassing, and I like to visit that once a month. I just do it the last Sunday of the month. And then, you share
We're
too.
probably
It's
doing
great.
it just about the same time on a Sunday, last Sunday of the month.
Go. There you
I
go.
can't think about money on a Sunday. It's like, oh, then I got to work tomorrow too.
That's
Okay.
fair. All right, last question, real quick, rapid fire, and then we're gonna go. I want to know your the best book or resource for building wealth or retirement saving, whatever, money management. What do you love?
Mine I read this year, and it wasn't as much about building wealth. It was called Your Oxygen Mask First, and it's just about taking care of your, like if you're on a plane and it's going down, if you don't have your oxygen mask on, you can't save anybody else. So it's about taking care of yourself, your finances, so then you can help everybody else around.
I picked the book Traction as my favorite. Read that.
Wickman?
Yep.
Great. What do you got?
I don't have one.
Okay, fair enough.
Go to your advisor, ask them.
Yes.
Don't read a
That's
book.
your advice. That's
that before.
That's perfect.
know.
That's perfect. You guys, this was really, really good. You guys are smart.
Good, this
Great
was fun.
shares.
This was
Thank
fun.
you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Yeah.
And thank you everybody out there in the virtual world. We appreciate you.
Good job.
Thank you.